This is the story of how I reclaimed my life and ended Thomas's toxic influence. For confidentiality, I'll use pseudonyms, as I'm a prominent lawyer in my state and value my anonymity. Florence and Thomas's story began like any other: love, marriage, and shared dreams, but over time, those dreams faded, and Thomas's love turned out to be a facade. The signs of infidelity were clear: late nights, excessive business trips, and growing emotional distance. Despite my successful legal career, Thomas demeaned me, dismissing my accomplishments simply because I earned less than he did. One evening, during another of his supposed business trips, I found myself compelled to dig deeper. On his old laptop, I uncovered a secret Facebook account. There, staring back at me, was all the proof I needed: messages, photos, and blatant evidence of his affair. The woman he had chosen was stunning, someone he had cruelly compared me to in the past. My heart broke, but my resolve hardened. I confronted him as soon as he returned. "Thomas, are you cheating on me?" "I have proof," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. He didn't flinch. Instead, he scoffed. "Florence, you're just not interesting anymore. You're always consumed by your pointless cases. Besides, you're no supermodel. What did you expect?" I refused to let his callous words deter me. "What are you talking about, Thomas? You knew my career was demanding when we got married. I've been here for you. You're the one who stopped coming home and refused to communicate." His response was chilling. "Good that you found out. Now I don't have to hide her anymore. She's everything you're not: beautiful, engaging, and worthy of me. I'm divorcing you. It's over." His words hit like a physical blow. The man I had loved for over a decade didn't just confess to his betrayal, he reveled in it, fighting back tears. I asked, "How could you do this? After everything we've been through, how could you just throw it all away?" His reply was devoid of emotion. "Florence, standing by someone isn't enough when you're not good enough. I'm successful now, and I need someone who matches my status, not a plain lawyer with average looks." By the time he hung up, he had sent divorce papers through a friend. The friend's sympathetic look nearly broke me, but I accepted the papers, shut the door, and let my grief pour out. Yet even in my despair, I knew this wouldn't destroy me. I was stronger than that, and I would not let Thomas have the final say. Later, something the friend said struck me. Thomas was planning to drag out the divorce. Confused at first, I remembered the prenup he insisted on before our marriage. It stated that if he cheated, I was entitled to half of his business. Realization dawned: this was why he wanted to delay the proceedings. He hoped I would give up and walk away from what was rightfully mine. Determined not to back down, I called my own lawyer and immediately set things in motion. Within days, I moved into my childhood home, which was in my name, and sent Thomas a text: "I've taken my ugly face and pointless self out of your house." His response was predictably smug. "Good, glad you've come to your senses. Don't expect to win against my lawyer." But I wasn't fazed. "From now on, speak to me through my legal team, and make sure my belongings are out of my house. What's mine stays mine." Thomas had underestimated me. He thought he could break me, but instead, he gave me the push I needed to take back my life, my dignity, and my future. I asked, my eyes fixed on Leo's face, waiting for confirmation. His reaction gave him away. He was caught completely off guard. My suspicions were confirmed once again. I won't lie, it stung to admit to a colleague that I had been cheated on. It's not a pleasant experience, and my ego took a hit, but I knew better than to let my emotions show. No matter how humiliated I felt, I still held the upper hand, and I was well aware of it. Jay, however, seemed oblivious. "Oh no," he said, shaking his head, "I don't think my client mentioned that, but he did warn me that you might make some baseless accusations to try to ruin him." I smiled, leaning back in my chair. "Oh, you poor thing, Leo, your client has played you like a fiddle, although, it might make you happy to know that Thomas thinks you're one of the best lawyers around." Leo gave a faint smile. "That's a big compliment, but I'll never measure up to you, ma'am," he admitted. "I wish he'd told me his wife is a lawyer. All he mentioned was that you work at a law firm." Thomas had always undermined my accomplishments, downplaying my career as if it were insignificant. It was foolish of me to stay with him for as long as I did, but signing that prenup had been one of the smartest decisions I'd ever made. When I mentioned the prenup, Leo froze. His expression betrayed his shock. I didn't need to be a mind reader to know that Thomas had conveniently failed to inform his lawyer about it, perhaps hoping I'd forgotten. "Well, Leo," I said with a calm smile, "there's definitely a prenup, and, of course, I have proof." Leo looked flustered. "A prenup? Your husband didn't mention that. Do you have the documents, ma'am? Oh, I do, I replied, pulling a folder from my bag. I brought everything. I had a feeling Thomas would try to weasel his way out of this. Not on my watch. I'd also need to see proof of the affair. If you have it, Leo added hesitantly. Don't worry, I have everything, from messages to photos. Like I said, I'm not the one trying to drag this divorce out. The sooner it's over, the better for me. I handed the documents to Leo, who pored over them in silence. His expression grew increasingly defeated as he reviewed the evidence. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh and looked at me. You have solid proof of everything, ma'am. I had no idea about any of this. I figured, I said evenly. It's tough dealing with unreliable clients, especially when the opposing side is prepared. Leo nodded, his voice resigned. You're right about that. I think I've got everything I need for now. I'll have to discuss this with my client before deciding how to proceed. Someone will contact you soon, although it may not be me. I caught the underlying message in his words, but chose not to comment. I thanked him for his time and left the cafe. Back at work, I threw myself into preparing for the divorce proceedings. The lingering sadness I'd felt earlier was gone, replaced by a burning determination. Thomas had wronged me in so many ways, and now it was his turn to face the consequences. It didn't take long for Thomas to respond. The very next day, he called me, despite insisting earlier that we only communicate through lawyers. Typical. I wasn't surprised, just amused. What the hell did you say to my lawyer, Florence? He barked as soon as I answered. Oh, look who's calling, I said, my tone light. Now, what happened with your lawyer, Thomas? Stop playing games, he snapped. Tell me what you said to him that made him quit. Your lawyer quit? I replied, feigning surprise. How unfortunate. I guess you should have been upfront about your situation, and about who you'd be up against. You don't know what you're talking about, he shouted. You're a nobody. I won't let you take my family business. Oh, I'd love to see you try, Thomas, I said, my voice dripping with confidence. I'll hire a better lawyer and destroy you in court. Just wait. You'll be begging me for mercy. Sounds like a plan, I replied coolly, but a word of advice from one lawyer to another. Don't forget to mention the prenup and your affair to your new attorney. There was a pause, and then the line went dead. I chuckled as I set my phone down. Thomas was in deep trouble, and he had no one to blame but himself. I haven't sabotaged anything. It's your own stupidity causing all the trouble. I don't get it. What did I even do? Shall I remind you how you lied to your lawyers about the affair and the prenup? You've made them look like fools. Do you really think any reputable lawyer would want to represent someone as unreliable as you? Sure, my name may make some people hesitate, but you might want to consider that I've built a solid reputation in this field. I know that now, Sophia. I've been upfront with the lawyers, but no one's willing to help me. Well, that's what happens when you try to fight an ironclad prenup. You should have thought this through, Thomas, but it's too late now. The damage is done. No sane lawyer is going to fight for you. You're going to end up giving me half of your business. His face said it all. He didn't want to lose his business, and that's why he scrambled to find a lawyer who would drag out the divorce. He thought I might just give up and walk away without claiming my fair share, but after a few days, it became painfully clear no one was going to back him up. Even getting a lawyer willing to go up against me was proving impossible. Desperate, he resorted to his final move. He started to cry and beg. Florence, you know how much this business means to me. Please, don't do this. Take everything else, but please don't take the business. Why not, Thomas? You're the one who put in the clause about splitting the business if you cheated. Do you really think I'll just give that up? I've earned my share after the way you betrayed me. It was a mistake, Florence. Believe me, I've put my relationship with her on hold because I know what a huge mistake it was. Maybe, just maybe, we could give this marriage another shot. I'm sure that overcoming this would only make us stronger. His words made me laugh. The audacity of this man was incredible. He actually thought I'd be foolish enough to take him back. I knew his affair had been put on pause, but that didn't mean I'd ever go back to him. Rumors were flying that his mistress wasn't happy either, but Thomas was clearly desperate enough to believe that begging would win me over. He didn't realize I'd learned my lesson the hard way. Are you delusional, Thomas? I didn't get this far by being stupid. I know exactly why you want me back. You don't want to lose your business. Florence, we were happy once. Please, let's forget about this and start over. I swear, I'll cut off my mistress. There's no reason to, Thomas, trust me. That woman is going to leave you as soon as she finds out you won't be rich after the divorce. As for me, this is my chance to get out of this mess of a marriage. Thank you for showing your true colors before we had kids. Now, you'll face the consequences. I stopped talking after that. Thomas kept pleading, but I wasn't moved. It was a pitiful sight, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. This was the revenge I had been waiting for, the tears I'd shed, the betrayal I'd endured, all of it had led to this moment. Watching him grovel was the perfect closure. For weeks, Thomas tried everything to change my mind. He sent texts, called, and begged for me to come back, but I wasn't interested. I had moved on and wasn't about to get caught up in his drama. When he finally realized no one was willing to take his side, he hired a lawyer and asked for a clean break. He knew if this went to court, he'd face humiliation and waste money on lawyers. The prenup made everything easy for me. I had solid proof of his affair, and according to the agreement, he had to give me half of his business, though he wasn't thrilled about it. He had no choice but to sign the papers. We did offer him a buyout, but as expected, he had no money. You might be wondering why a wealthy businessman like Thomas had no money. Well, he'd spent it all on his mistress, who's now refusing to take his calls. She figured out that he wouldn't be the rich man he once was. And now, no one's interested in dating her. Everyone knows she's just a gold digger. Karma is truly a funny thing. But the mistress wasn't Thomas's only problem. With half of his business gone, his finances took a major hit. He had to sell his mansion and move into a condo, a serious downgrade. He even tried to win me back, hoping to regain control of his business, but that ship had sailed. Now he either has to live with the consequences or figure out a way to buy me out. As for me, I'm doing great. I've appointed someone to manage my share of the business, and life is looking better than ever. I treated myself to a new mansion, and with my law practice and business income, things are going smoothly. I'm living my best life, and I couldn't be happier. In the end, the divorce was a victory for me. Instead of being played by Thomas and his mistress, I ended up getting what I deserved while ruining their lives in the process. The lesson I learned is simple: when you're strong enough to walk away, life has a funny way of rewarding you. I'm no longer the victim of their schemes, I'm thriving, and they're left picking up the pieces of their shattered lives. I don't need a man to validate my worth, and I've finally found peace in knowing that I've moved on to better things. This chapter of my life is over, and the future is mine to shape.